Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. And the journey continues today, March 13th of 2021. It is currently 5:52 a.m. Pacific time. And here we go again. Still trying to get things in order. Now, yesterday I had mentioned that I was looking at going and getting a washer and dryer. Well, got up in the morning, checked the internet, found out where we thought we could go. Understand, I've been in the city now for 35 years. I've got a sense of direction that is second to none. I've never met somebody with one worse. After 35 years in the city, I went out, I knew where I was going, or at least so I thought, managed to get lost 6 times in the same city. Okay, as in made the wrong turn, missed the turn that I knew was right there, and it was supposedly well marked. Okay, got fed up, went home. Okay, we had tried going to a couple other places, they were closed, so it was an absolutely horrendous morning. Went home, sat down on what we call our magic chair, because it doesn't matter who you are, you sit on it and you fall asleep. Ended up sleeping for an hour, right? Woke up, looked at our son and went, I know exactly where the building is. Right. So we got up, got back in the car, drove straight to the building, straight to the place we were looking at. Found it, walked in, right. We got the washer and dryer ordered. Worked out really nicely. They cut number one, it was inexpensive because we don't need all the bells and whistles. Turned around, bought the thing. After we paid for it, the gentleman tells us we cut an extra, I cut an extra $100 off, an extra $50 per unit for the set. Right. So got a nice little setup there. It's bought and paid for. We don't have to pay anything more on it. We've got 6 years solid warranty on it. And they deliver it next week, which is absolutely fantastic from our standpoint. We haven't had a washer and dryer in our house for, 2 years now. We just couldn't afford it. Fortunately, we had a laundry room inside the apartment block. But again, all this boils down to is that like I've told you, when you get something set in your mind, understand there will be setbacks and what have you, but you can accomplish what you're aiming for. Okay. The first rule of thumb is you've got to believe it's possible. Now, the sad part is I've spent the better part of my life fighting depression. Right. Well, the fight's over. We won. It was touch and go there for a while, and fortunately, in all the struggles that we've had, the closest I ever came to suicide was curiosity. Okay, and rest assured, there's a song that says it all. It used to be on the old show MASH, right back I think it was in the 70s and 80s, but I'm probably wrong on the year. But they had a song that was titled "Suicide is Painless." And for those of you that are really struggling with depression, rest assured, suicide is a lot of things, and painless is not one of them. Okay, now fortunately, we never got to the point that we were ever suicidal. Just about got ourselves killed a couple of times, but I had a number of things in my head that I was going to do when my mom passed away. When we got the inheritance, we had a number of things. We knew, everybody knew that it was not enough to retire on. So we had some goals in mind, and today we're going to go out and tie off the tail end of them. And then we're pretty much out of the money that we had, but we've got enough income to be able to handle living and be able to set ourselves up for retirement. But now we've got the washer and dryer, or we will shortly. Right. When you get an idea in your head, first rule of thumb, and I know I've shown you this before, finding a little notepad with things on it that need to get done. And the reason that I do that is because it helps me keep things organized. It may work for you, it may not. Give it a shot. If you're doing things that are not working, okay, if whatever you're doing with your life isn't working, this is why I end up doing this. If my handle worked, that'd be nice. This funny little thing here, I put everything that I've done on notes, and most of it I end up putting in booklets. Right. Biggest thing and the most important factor from that side of it is this: when you're dealing with making something happen. Everybody says it's easy to do such and such. My brother used to do the same thing with my mom regarding computers. Mom, they're real easy. And to those of you that don't know certain things, once you know certain things, like for instance, computers are real easy to work with once you understand them. Prior to that, they're about as confusing as they get. Well, there's a lot of self-help books out there that'll tell you, here's what you need to do to get yourself on track. And they're great books. Unfortunately, a lot of them go into way too much technical detail and all sorts of long stories about how other people have been successful. Okay. And when I destroyed my leg when I was 12, Mom was trying to be nice. And she turned around and she come to me and she goes, Keith, I know you're in pain, but Alan down the street, a friend of your brother's, broke his arm. And I looked at her and went, Mom, not to be callous, but he could have broken both his legs and his arm, and it wouldn't make me feel any better. Okay, so stories of other people's success don't really work that well, in my opinion, anyway. So what I did with that little book was I broke it down into there's four simple tools that I use. The biggest one of all is, doesn't matter what you're going through, put a smile on your face. And the reason for that is pretty cut and dried. Okay. Number one, my understanding is it takes a whole lot more muscles to frown than it does to smile, and frankly, I'm lazy. Hence why I'm up half the time. I've already been up. Well, like I said, it's almost 6 o'clock. I've been up for 2.5 hours already. Okay. By the way, don't do that. Bad idea. So, when you get an idea in your head, what I did was I went, okay, here's the tool. Here's the benefits it'll give you. And frankly, here's why you don't want to do it in the first place. Because my rationality was real simple. I have a tendency of talking myself out of things. So, and bearing in mind, I've had, like I mentioned a couple of days ago, I've had about 80,000 clients under my belt. And most people, when you tell them this is what you need to do, they will find any reason under the sun not to do it. So I started making notes for myself. I went, well, why wouldn't I want to do this? And I started listing them off. The rationality was real simple. If I eliminate the primary reasons why you don't want to do something, maybe you'll be able to get on and do it. Net result, we're now sitting in much better shape. And I don't know, if you take a look at the other videos that I've done prior to the last week, I've started noticing a difference. I'm feeling a whole lot better about me. Still not impressed with society, but I am feeling a whole lot better about me. Okay, once you get that moving in your favor, you can get a whole lot more accomplished. Right? So that's what I've been doing, is I've been taking all these little ideas and little notes and what have you, and looking at upgrades to what I desire, to what works for me, not necessarily what's going to work for anybody else. But then it doesn't have to. Okay, and I do very strongly encourage you to follow karmic law. You must be true to you first. Now, understand, For those of you that are looking at it going, well, he told me to be true to me and I want to do this. There's a mitigating situation here. You must follow the laws of the land in which you are. Now, to be clear, following the laws of the land in which you are. If you're living at home, if you're living under somebody else's roof, you've got to follow their rules, providing they don't countermand societal rules. Now, to be clear, if you live in a community where they say absolutely smoking is perfectly fine, and I just use this one because it's an obvious one. Okay. If society says you can smoke in this society, in your own home, you absolutely have the right to say, yeah, you want to smoke, go out there. You cannot smoke in my house. That's perfectly fine because it does not countermand the outside laws. If on the flip side, society says you can't smoke in this community, as a homeowner, you cannot sit there and go, well, I know you're not allowed to smoke out there, but in my house you can. You cannot do that because the household rule is now countermanding the societal rule. Now, this applies to everything. Okay, even in my own house, I've got a 15-year-old, and the rules are simple. In his room, he's entitled to do what he will, providing it does not countermand household rules. But other than that, it doesn't matter. Okay, that gives him a sense of he's got control of his life. He's got a good way to do things. He's got his own sense of autonomy and his own set of rules. So that's great. Okay. And we do recommend that you, as parents, it would be really wise to understand that, especially with teenage kids, every kid goes through the same thing. You may not remember it, okay, but you went through your own challenges. Kids do require a little bit of freedom to make their own decisions. They're going to make bad ones on occasion, and they're going to end up dealing with them. But as long as they're being, as I told my own kids, I will, if you're honest with me, I will back you to the hilt. If you break the law, yet you're honest with me, I will stand beside you through the entire system. However, you'll deal with the law. If, on the other hand, you lie to me, I'll be the one at the front of the line with the baseball bat and the noose. Okay. And my kids have been very good. I got them trained early from the standpoint of they've always been honest with me. Even where it comes to Christmas, the kids, if my door is closed on my bedroom, they will not go through the door. In 15 years, my one son has only come through the door once without knocking. And that's because he had a nightmare. Okay. But I can leave anything in my bedroom where it comes to Christmas and hiding gifts and what have you. I can hide whatever I want. I can leave whatever I want anywhere in my bedroom. I can leave money wherever I please. It never goes anywhere. Okay. Kids need their autonomy. So do adults. Okay. And the reality of it is, karmic law number 2, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, applies very strongly. If you desire your kids to respect you, this cute little thought that I keep hearing, I'm your elder, therefore you must respect me. That is a interesting shovel or backhoe full, I'm not sure which. Okay, because the reality is if you do not respect the kids or you do not respect your co-workers, they're not going to respect you. They may fear you, but they certainly won't respect you. Okay, so, I mean, you take a look at that, and the way I've come to understand it is if you treat people decently, on the whole, they will treat you decently. Okay, if you're patient with them, and this is assuming, of course, they are not doing something absolutely stupid. Okay, if they're deliberately trying to push your buttons, I do feel for other people. I've got buttons myself. And people have been known to push my buttons. Right. And I do my best to be, to be congenial to people. But what I've turned around and done is figured out exactly how I desire to do things, where I desire my life to go. Okay. And by doing that, the more organized I get, the happier I get. It was funny. I talked to my son yesterday, and I said, "So, which do you prefer? The way I used to be, which was quite frankly pretty melancholy, pretty. I guess grumpy is probably the right word for it, because I couldn't tolerate people at all. This is one of the reasons why I became a recluse. It's also one of the reasons why I quit dealing with things. And I just hid from the world. That was the biggest issue from that end. Okay, and yes, I'm doing the same dang thing. Like I said, I have a tendency of making notes when they come through my head. If I ever figure out how to focus on only one thing, I'm going to be in a very different world. Probably literally. Okay. The nice part about it is the ideas that I've got are working. I have a list. And every day, like I'm sitting here looking at the computer here, up on the wall, I have my sign. We have legally attained a minimum of $2,000 by 11:59 p.m. on March 12th, 2021. Okay, sorry, March 31st of 2021. And the reason for that is because that helps me stay focused on whether or not I'm making the right income, whether or not my spending is falling inside what I require. Now, here's the thing with money. Every time I talk to somebody that doesn't have any, or almost, they tell me the same story. I was told I have to learn to cut back and live within my means. Well, that's a great thought. I love it. And I'll tell you, if you're making only $1,500 a month and your rent is 1,000, I don't care how much you cut back, you're going to have a problem. So there is another option. I much prefer this option. When you're having trouble making ends meet, yes, watch your spending. Absolutely. I was talking to one lady that used to complain vehemently. Her husband was getting $100,000 bonus every year, and she worked full time. Right, so they both worked full time. With that $100,000 bonus, they couldn't make ends meet. Right, and we told her, look, you're having trouble making ends meet. Well, quit flying to Tahiti every other month and start taking your holidays together. Oh, we don't want to do that. Well, then don't complain you don't have any money. It's things like this. Money doesn't care how you feel. Okay, it could care less how you feel, I think. So you have one of two choices. Cut back, or the one I prefer, find a way to make a better income. Don't quit your current income, no matter whether you like the job or not. If it's an income, it's still keeping a roof over your head. And I'm just going to go with the idea of it's better to have a roof over your head than live on the street. Whether you like your job or not, absolutely look to other options. See what you can do to generate a higher income. I talked to one chap that was on the street, and he was begging, so I asked him why he was out there. What put him out there? And he says, "Well, I've got a full-time job, but it only barely pays for my food and nothing extra, for my rent and nothing extra." And we looked at him and says, "Well, have you considered walking across the parking lot and getting a job at McDonald's?" Right. I know for a fact up here they will work around your schedule so that you can have two jobs. And the guy never missed a heartbeat. He looks at me and he goes, "I'm not going to work for McDonald's." I looked at him and went, "You're not hungry enough." Right. Never gave him another plug nickel. There's a lot of people, as I mentioned the other day, I had the pleasure, at least I think I did, had the pleasure of buying somebody an anniversary dinner. I had the money. They were out for their anniversary, so it was my gift to them. In this case, I happen to know who they were. But I've been known to do the same thing with groceries for people in lineups. Just because, for me, money it's a great bartering tool, and simply put, it's easier to move a dollar bill around than it is to move a cow. A lot less work keeping control of it, too. So, when you get an idea in your head, take a look at what makes you happy. Okay, providing you're not breaking the law, because I will tell you, breaking the law, it may be fun for a little while, but it becomes really complicated if you go down the wrong road. And this is why I say, when you're doing something, if you can stand up and proudly say, I did such and such, then absolutely go out and do it. Okay, now there are circumstances. You don't go up and proudly tell somebody, I bought you such and such for Christmas. Right. Surprises like that or secrets like that are a good idea. Okay, because I always found it really nice for me anyway. I enjoy watching the pleasant reaction, the surprised reaction of other people. Okay, much more than what I get myself. But get an idea in your head now. Take a look at the goals you have. Take a look at the dreams you have. Okay, those are what you work towards. Get things organized the way you desire them to. You know, and I mean, I'm sitting here telling you this, and I'm looking at that brown shelf behind me, going, I've got to get that top shelf cleared and out of the way, because it just annoys me. You know, and it's not going anywhere if I don't do anything with it. So I guess when I get done here, I'm going to have to deal with that. This again, it boils down to this. I'm not content with it. It probably doesn't mean much to you. I could take a blanket and put it over top of it and go, there, I can't see it. You know, kind of like little kids do. You know, when they're first learning things, they go, you can't see me. It doesn't work that well, but they like it. Same thing with junk. If you don't like it, hiding it under a blanket or hiding it in a box doesn't work well. Okay. So, from my standpoint, it really boils down to one very simple issue. It boils down to taking a look at the way your reality is and what you're looking at for life. You know, I've talked about this a fair chunk over the last week, and it's dawned on me what I'm looking for. The question is, have you considered what you're looking for in life? What makes you happy? Or much more importantly, or much easier to identify, what makes you unhappy? Okay, the things that you have control over that make you unhappy or make you not happy, okay, those are the things you've got control with. Those are the things to start eliminating from your life. I'm not happy with the shelf behind me. So the first rule of thumb is clear off that top shelf. And it's not a question to clear it off and put it elsewhere in the house where I don't have to deal with it. Although that's not a bad idea in some cases. Because you pick one room that you can start moving stuff you don't desire in, that needs to be sorted through. Contain it in one room so the rest of the house looks a little better. You'll be a lot more relaxed. The energy in your house will flow a lot more smoothly, and you'll find stress levels go through the floor. Okay, but that's something I can control in my world. If it frustrates you by looking at it and going, well, how come that junk is still sitting there? Well, it's because I'm a professional procrastinator. Okay, but I must say thank you to the people that encouraged me to start doing this on a regular basis. Oddly enough, it actually gets easier. You know, I kept putting it off and putting it off. I finally found a way that I can do it. Still can't get it down to a definitive time frame. I mean, I've had some days where I'm up at 2 doing this, up at 7 doing this. Well, today is today. And whenever I manage to get to a schedule that I can work with, that'll be great, but I'm not betting on it anytime soon. Okay. But get things organized in your own head and just take my word for it. If you don't already understand it or if you haven't done it before and you're struggling to get organized, use a list. 3 things on the list. When you get them done, check them off. When you get one done, check it off and write a third one down. Okay. By doing that, you'll have that through that list of 3 always on the go. Do not forget on that list to put down things like breakfast, lunch, and supper, or whatever you eat. Okay, because, and to be clear, and we got into this discussion with somebody the other day. Breakfast, by the way, in my opinion, does not mean bacon and eggs or hash browns or, cereal or toast. Breakfast means quite literally. Now, many of you may be like this other person we were talking to. You may see bacon and eggs as breakfast and lasagna and chili as either lunch or supper. In my opinion, it's very simple. The first meal of the day, regardless of what time it is, the first meal of the day is your breakfast. So if you happen to have chili for the first meal, well, apparently you had chili for breakfast. Okay, I don't know who came up with the idea that bacon and eggs were the only breakfast meal available, but it is tradition, if you will. Or at least it seems to be here. Now, the nice part about it is, however you do it, I will tell you, I personally find that having something to eat, even if it's only a piece of toast first thing in the morning, starts things moving properly. Many people are not, their body just won't handle, for whatever reason, a big breakfast. Right. So, even if that's the case, grab a glass of orange juice, grab a piece of toast, something but when we're talking orange juice, recommended grab the stuff with pulp. You may, and again, it's personal choice, but something in your body to kickstart your energy running. Okay. Now I have tried the occasional time, quite by accident I might add, where I've gotten up, I've moved a little wrong, and ended up getting a static shock. And I will tell you, a good sized static shock is a way that will get your heart running. And it will get you woken up in a hurry. It's amazing how mild electrocution can do that for you. By the way, I don't recommend it. Much better to have a cup of coffee. Have a cup of coffee, have a piece of toast. You're a lot better off. Okay, and a lot less pain. But for the time being, I'm going to get to work on the rest of my day, and that little mess behind me is one of the things on my list. Okay. And I do strongly encourage you to start working towards eliminating the things that you don't desire. Remember one little detail. That word should have been remember. One little detail. Working together with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family, we can, working together, make this a better world for everybody, regardless of what walk of life you're from. Okay, and I will absolutely encourage all of you people out there that are doing well. Okay, all of those that have a surplus. Okay, absolutely reach out to help the people that are having trouble. Now understand, you cannot be successful for anybody. They have to do the work themselves. And that means, quite frankly, if they're just sitting around going, give me a handout, I don't want to do anything, I've got a right to live. Well, yeah, you probably do. But you also have an obligation to get up and do something. And I'll end up talking about that probably tomorrow or the next day. I don't know. I don't plan these things out at all. But I do hope that we get a thumbs up out of you. Okay, absolutely subscribe to our channel below. And if you're trying to track me down, underneath this video, there's a whole list of contact numbers, contact points, where you can get a hold of me. Drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you. And I will do my best to get back to you. Until then, I'm going to call this off. Okay, until we talk again, take care of yourselves and each other.